today for the Bitcoin price, dear ladies and gentlemen, should I say for the Ethereum price? The topic we are going to talk about today is a topic which I certainly didn't expect to talk about. I actually don't even know what to think about that, but after I had this discussion with my dear friend Julian Hosp, I thought we have to make a video about that. I have to update you guys about what we have to say today. You can see it in the title already. And I can tell you this is definitely something we have to take into consideration. And we are talking today to no one else but Julian Hosp, someone who is in the crypto market for like 10 years, someone who has accumulated a significant amount of wealth by investing alone. And then he's a businessman with a very successfully running business here in Singapore, a lot of employees, I don't know, 100, 200 employees. And now I want to pick your brain on this insane topic. And of course, we want to talk a little bit about maybe how I'm structuring my portfolio, how he's structuring it between Bitcoin and Ethereum. What are the price predictions? But more importantly, are we going to go in the future to coinmarketcap.com and see Ethereum on number one? Before we are talking about all of that, I wanted to ask you, Julian Hosp, how are you doing today, my man?
Man, I'm amazing. We had a fantastic conversation. 1 hour, 50 minutes. We're going to publish that on our channel. Yeah. It's amazing. I thought the energy was fantastic.
Incredible. I mean, if you're watching this, I don't know if before or after this video is uploaded, you will see the video on Julian Host's channel. I'll leave the link down below where we have a 1 hour and 10-minute discussion about insane things. I can tell you, I got goosebumps while he was talking, while I was talking. It was incredible. You have to watch it. Maybe after watching this video. Now I want to go deep into the content. I said in this podcast that my own portfolio allocation in between Bitcoin and Ethereum, my whole crypto portfolio, 100%, 70% Bitcoin, 20% Ethereum. Yours is basically the flip side.
Yep.
So not only that he thinks Ethereum is going to perform well, he thinks not only that Ethereum is going to perform better than Bitcoin, no. While being bullish on Bitcoin, you think that Ethereum is going to not only outperform, but flip Bitcoin in terms of market cap. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Maybe in the end, we can talk about some kind of price prediction. I know it's very speculative, but that's quite interesting. You've been pretty dang well in timing the market. I think you sold more than 100 million US dollars in crypto assets in the bull market of 2021. That was beautiful. And because of that, I really take your opinion serious. I want to know from you, what are your thoughts about Ethereum, your expectations, and why do you think it is going to flip Bitcoin?
So I'm bullish on Bitcoin. I want to be very clear on this. I think Bitcoin is going to go up. I just think Ethereum is going to go up more. Short term, simply because Ethereum right now this year has some price drivers with the futures ETF that can have some significant impact for the short-term price. For the first time, institutions really have access to Ethereum, and Ethereum didn't have that so far. So I think it could easily happen this year already, actually. I think it's unlikely this year, but I think it's possible. Why?
Wow.
It just needs a doubling of the Ethereum price. And I think an Ethereum futures ETF can do that, right?
While Bitcoin staying constant.
Yeah, while Bitcoin stays constant, exactly, right? So I don't think an Ethereum futures ETF is going to have so much impact on the Bitcoin price. I think the other way around, Bitcoin always pulls everything up or down. So I think it's not going to happen this year, but I do see a path for this year. I think just in the longer term, Ethereum has so much utility with possibilities being built on top of Ethereum. I think there's a flip side to that. We can kind of steelman the argument, or I can steelman the argument on why the exact opposite is going to happen, why actually Bitcoin is just going to only win against Ethereum. I can make the steelman argument. I think it's less likely, but I can steelman it. I think utility for Ethereum is super strong. We saw this with the supply over the last 12 months, where on Ethereum we actually had a deflation, 0.25% down. Why? Because it's used so much. Bitcoin, on the other hand, 1.24% up. So that's key. And then I just think that Ethereum has an upside with not so many people knowing about it as Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I think most people have heard about it. Ethereum, most people have, but not everyone. And I think that's a huge chance though. So I don't know, that's as a whole, I just think stronger utility, being deflationary, more people having a chance there. To me, that's, my money is on Ethereum right now.
That is very interesting. And before I entered this office here, maybe I would have said 95% likelihood Bitcoin is going to stay number one, but I really see your arguments. And maybe I have to adjust this to like 85% or so, at least to speak. I still think Bitcoin is going to stay number one, of course, for reasons which you all know as my followers. I think Bitcoin's biggest value is the safe haven aspect that people now we can see it in countries with the inflationary currency, Turkey, Argentina, and so on, they can actually buy Bitcoin. We see that the correlation is very high in between countries with a high inflation and the adoption rate of Bitcoin, right? And I see this strengthening over the future as more and more fiat currencies are going to collapse. That is why I personally believe that a price target of at least 500,000 to $1 million long term is very realistic for Bitcoin. Right, I think we were agreeing on that for sure.
Aligned, yeah.
And of course, if we have more utilities for Bitcoin, we talked about ordinals and so on, we can even talk about a higher price target. And eventually, of course, we will reach a saturation point, and Bitcoin is probably just going to grow with the world growth rate 1%, 2%, like somewhere in the distant future. That's what I think, and I have a hard time seeing Ethereum exceeding that. But you got me a little bit with the supply aspect, of course. I really like, and who knows if it's going to stay like this, I really like contracting supply. And I see this as a strong driving force behind the Ethereum price as well, of course, with other factors, given that utility usage and all of these things are going to increase. Beautiful points. Now I want to know, how's your own portfolio structured? I know that my portfolio, I have 70% in Bitcoin, 20% Ethereum, more or less, right? It swaps around every day, and 10% distributed through different altcoins. I wanted to know from you, how is it looking for your portfolio? I think the reason why we know already. And then I want to swap over into a little bit of a speculative part, a prediction part.
I mean, I still, for me, and people know this, number one for me is DeFi Chain, just because I'm so involved in that project. Right after Ethereum, for that very simple reason that I think it's more bullish than Bitcoin for me. I'm bullish on Bitcoin, but more on Ethereum. My Bitcoin position is a tiny amount right now. We used to have actually a relatively large position in the company in Bitcoin, and that position also we built it down, and we swapped it also into other coins. And one of the reasons, and that's also, I see this on myself, on Ethereum right now, I'm getting actual yield from staking. This is not inflation, this is real yield. And I'm getting 4%, 5%. It's significant. It depends on your amounts, but it's significant. And if you have a significant amount in crypto and suddenly you're getting the staking yield and also in the company, man, suddenly this really flips your cash flow. And yeah, no, on Bitcoin, I don't have that. Sure, maybe Bitcoin outperforms price-wise. There could be, and over time it does. It's just interesting.
It's true. And this yield is, some people might say, oh, but the inflation is 7%. No, it's not, it's higher. But let's say it is. You are getting this yield in an asset which you expect to increase in price in it of itself. So 4% is, in actual terms, even much higher than that. It's a beautiful thing. And I really give you this point. Now I want to know, I talked about our expectations, not only yours, also my expectations of Ethereum going higher. Where do you see Ethereum? Because what you said, that there is going to be a flippening. We just need a doubling of the price with Bitcoin staying constant. Yeah. Where do you see the Ethereum price going speculative in the next up-and-coming bull cycle, 24, 25? Where do you see Ethereum going? And maybe we can set it in relation, where do you see Bitcoin going? And then we can see, okay, that would be the point of flippening.
I really hope we're going to see a new all-time high in Bitcoin. And it's going to depend mostly on the money printing in the next cycle. For me, the all-time high, we discussed this in the other video, I see this in 2025. Are we going to see 100,000? I hope so in this cycle. So from here, 4x from here, I wouldn't be all too surprised in this. I would see Ethereum hitting about 10,000 maybe in that same cycle, maybe way more, right? I talked on Twitter that I could see 20,000. I think 20,000, obviously that's an easy flippening from this level right now. If Bitcoin hits 100,000 and Ethereum hits 20,000. But for that, we really need a strong bull.
Yeah, 20,000 for Ethereum and only 100,000 for Bitcoin would be very, very clear flippening, right? That would be a multiple in market
I just think
cap.
There's also, people cannot underestimate the effect if suddenly there's another thing, like the narrative, right, of suddenly something else going into number one. I think there's going to be a very strong narrative there. I think at the moment, everyone that goes into crypto, if they have no clue what they invest in Bitcoin. Why? Because it's the number one. And if that narrative changes, suddenly something else attracts the money. I don't know. There's just a lot of narratives there. I hear a lot of institutions who say, hey, no, it's actually quite nice. I can get cash flow on that. And that's a strong narrative. So, yeah. I to be fair, I'm not someone who makes price predictions in a sense on that I expect this to happen from here. It's more for me the ratio to other things. I feel that's a bit more meaningful. So for me,
it's all about opportunity cost,
of
right?
course, exactly, right? So it's a bit hard to kind of say at this point I'm going to sell, at this point I'm going to buy, because it depends, right? Like, what does it help me if I say, oh, I'm going to sell Bitcoin at 100,000 if everything else also went up 4x, right, from here? Then what do I sell it into? There's no point in selling it into anything, right?
You didn't gain any purchasing power compared to these assets.
Exactly. So, yeah, to me, it's like you said, the ratio to those things.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that $100,000 is a very realistic price target for Bitcoin. I personally see it higher. That would be 50% above the previous all-time high. I think that's quite conservative, but why not? Why not? Very interesting point. And when you're watching this right now, whether you agree more with his point of view of Ethereum flipping Bitcoin, both of these assets being bullish, but Ethereum way more bullish in the future in terms of his expectations than Bitcoin, or whether you expect me to be right. It doesn't really matter. What you have to take into consideration is also a little bit the risk. So let's say you agree with Julian. I don't think it would be smart, but you have to decide for yourself to take all your money, take a credit, and buy all in Ethereum. I mean, Ethereum, I think we can agree on that. It has probably a higher risk
I 100%
than
agree.
Bitcoin,
I
right?
1,000,000% agree.
Exactly. And this is something you always have to take into consideration. But I personally find it very interesting because somehow for everyone, whether you are in the market for like 1 year or 10 years like Julian or like 6, 7 years like me, for us, all Bitcoin was the granddaddy. It was always the number one. Yeah. And thinking about it being flipped by Ethereum is just such a weird feeling, I have to say. It's such a weird feeling. I'd be fine with that, but I don't know.
There's 3 arguments I want to make that steelman the argument, right? The very first one is, like you said, risk. Where's the risk coming from? I think the bigger risk is all the time when Ethereum does upgrades. They just did a testnet. I mean, it's a testnet upgrade, completely failed. So, I mean, in a worst case, this can happen on mainnet as well. I mean, that's why they have the testnet. But there's always an issue with this. Bitcoin upgrading to something, super unlikely. So Ethereum does this a lot. There's risk in that. Massive risk, right? There's an upside. Ethereum, for example, doesn't have the Satoshi risk. No one knows who Satoshi is. Who's going to dump those coins at some point? Maybe never, right? We don't know. I think that's a totally different risk on Bitcoin. Ethereum doesn't have that. I'm not so worried about it on Bitcoin. But that's something that's the flip side. The second thing is, I think the use case on Ethereum is potentially so much bigger than on Bitcoin. Bitcoin, by design, is very narrow in its use case, but it's so easy to explain. So if Ethereum really lacks to get this strong use case, and NFTs and DeFi and GameFi and SocialFi and all these things are not kind of breaking through, I think it's always harder to explain the Ethereum use case than Bitcoin. Digital gold, like what you said, the non-censorable digital something, right? These things are so easy to explain. I think that is actually key. And the third thing, most people are not aware of that. When I ask this question during hard forks, and I ask this always in Ethereum, who decides over the hard fork? Most people say like, oh, Vitalik, oh, the Ethereum Foundation. All incorrect. It's the stable coins, right? It's Tether and Circle. These two decide over Ethereum's future. And this is just crazy to think. And most people, they just don't think it through. They don't understand that. So whenever I see someone write, oh, but Vitalik controls Ethereum, I'm like, that just shows you have no freaking clue, because it's actually Circle and Tether. Now, could Ethereum survive without Circle and Tether? For sure, but it would be a totally different Ethereum. So those 3 things, they don't exist in that form on Bitcoin. And I think that's what is a strong upside for Bitcoin. And Ethereum has to overcome that. And that's why you're right, higher risk, I expect way higher returns.
Yeah. Exactly. And one of the reasons why I'm in Bitcoin rather than Ethereum, even though I expect maybe a little bit higher percentage growth for Ethereum than for Bitcoin, just not enough for a flippening, is I want to keep it a rather low risk. Everyone has to decide for themselves what is your risk tolerance, of course. Overall, I want to put together why I have my position in that I think Bitcoin is going to stay number one. Bitcoin is relevant for each and every single person in the world. And Ethereum is relevant for many people in the world, but not for everyone. And if you look at the success principle from Elon Musk, he's just looking at how can I add as much value as possible to the most amount of people in the world. Well, Twitter was one thing, SpaceX, making humanity a multiplanetary species. And like everything he's doing, he's always following this one specific principle. And looking at Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin follows this principle. Bitcoin is relevant for every single person in the world. And that's why I think Bitcoin is number one. And that's why I think Bitcoin will stay number one. Time will unfold. And I think both of us are going to be very happy in the future when we're looking at our portfolio.
If I'm wrong and Bitcoin still moons and I'm
who cares? We're
just
going to do well,
for you
right?
And myself, yes.
And for yourself specifically, he has a lot of Bitcoin. We should not forget about that, right? Just you have many more Ethereum.
Dude, I always say this. I say, look, even though my percentage maybe be small in my portfolio, I still think I have more Bitcoin than most laser eyes who criticize me.
For sure. Exactly. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. Not only that, but I want to know your opinions down below in the comments. Do you think Bitcoin will flip, Ethereum will flip Bitcoin, or do you think Bitcoin is going to stay number one? I want to see what you think, because that's always kind of important, whether you want to take it as a good indication or as a counter indication. I really want to know what the community thinks. And if you think Ethereum is going to flip Bitcoin, maybe you leave a little bit of reasoning below, because that could be very interesting. Follow Julian Hosp and watch the video we made on his channel. 70 minutes of an amazing, crazy discussion. I'll leave the link for his channel or maybe for the video down below, and you should definitely watch it. Any last words to say before we are wrapping it up for today?
No, man. I know if I ever told you this, but I really am, I'm just amazed in what you've built, actually. I think that's amazing. When I met you the very first time, I remember you were just super excited about crypto. And then, today I look back and I'm like, wow, it's like amazing. It's really amazing.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, quick background story. 2017, beginning of 17, I joined his Facebook group. I was a moderator. And I really looked up to Julian because he was not only a YouTuber, he talked about Bitcoin. It made sense to me. I was studying economics. I knew the problems of the monetary system. I understood why Bitcoin is valuable. And he was basically the first person who taught this without any, at least who I found to teach this. We had Andreas Antonopoulos and so on, but who taught it without any connection to MLM or money grabs. That was beautiful. So I'm very grateful for you bringing me not only into crypto, but also inspiring me to make my own YouTube channel. And that is very beautiful. I'm very happy to see how reality unfolds. We are here crazy. 7 years later in Singapore talking about crypto. And I think we've both been doing very well with ups and downs. And it's just beautiful. I hope I see you again this year, next year, in 6 years, in 60 years. Would be amazing.
You too. Amazing.
Thanks for liking, sharing, follow Julian Hosp, link down below, and we will see each other at the next one. As always, guys, bye-bye.